Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're tackling a topic that literally every homeowner eventually faces, and, let's be honest, usually dreads: aging plumbing systems. We're going to break down that critical, often totally stressful decision of when to just keep patching things up versus when it's finally time to bite the bullet and fully replace the pipes in your home. All right, let's dive right into this.
So, is your house hiding a rusty secret? It's kind of a terrifying thought, right? I mean, we walk around our homes every single day completely oblivious to what's going on right behind the drywall. There's this undeniable anxiety that comes with hidden plumbing disasters, mostly because you just can't see them until it's way too late. But what if I told you that your house is actually giving you clues?
Well, the absolute core reality of home maintenance is this. Plumbing doesn't usually fail all at once, especially if you're in an older home. It degrades quietly over time. Think of the pipes in your home like invisible veins. Just like a circulatory system, plumbing issues build up super gradually through systemic restriction. They choke up slowly, month by month, year by year, way before they turn into a catastrophic flood in your living room. So, understanding this gradual degradation, that is absolutely crucial for catching a problem before it completely ruins your day and your house.
Section 1. The Hidden Plumbing Problem, 4 Signs of Pipe Failure.
According to our source material, there are 4 major warning signs that your plumbing system might have hit the end of the line. First off, it starts with your water quality. I mean, nobody wants to turn on the tap and get a horribly unappetizing glass of orange water, right? Gross. Next, you might start noticing low water pressure and suddenly clogged fixtures. Then comes the actual structural stuff, frequent leaks, or just persistent dampness hanging around in your ceilings, crawl spaces, or basements. And finally, there's water hammer and uneven temperatures, which usually leads to the absolute misery of getting blasted with a freezing cold shower just because someone flushed a toilet downstairs. No, thank you.
Let's actually look a little closer at the mechanical why behind those first 2 symptoms. If you're frequently getting orange or brown water, especially after the tap has been sitting off for a while, that points directly to internal pipe corrosion. The pipe is literally rusting from the inside out. On the flip side, progressive low pressure isn't just bad luck, it's actually caused by mineral buildup or corrosion that is physically reducing the pipe's diameter. It is literally choking off the flow of water before it ever even reaches your faucet.
And then there's that final symptom, which honestly sounds terrifying in the middle of the night. Have you ever heard a really loud banging in your walls when a washing machine stops or a faucet gets turned off? That right there is called water hammer. These are banging noises that happen when pipe conditions and flow change over time, and it's very often due to aging joints or restricted flow. So long story short, that scary banging in your walls, not a ghost. It's actually a very clear, audible sign of an aging, restricted system that is struggling to handle changes in water pressure.
Moving on to Section 2. The evolution of plumbing. What's in your walls?
You know, what your home is currently plumbed with actually offers massive clues about how urgent a replacement might be. This timeline here shows exactly how industry standards have evolved. If you're living in a much older home, say built around 70 years ago, you probably started out with galvanized steel. Then as we moved into later installations a few decades back, copper pipes became the absolute gold standard. And finally, jumping to present-day, newer installations, we see the widespread use of PEX, which are those flexible plastic lines you might have seen.
Okay, let's dive into this showdown and objectively compare these 3 materials, specifically looking at their typical failure modes. Galvanized steel is pretty infamous for internal corrosion. Because that interior narrowing happens so gradually, the problems aren't super obvious until you get hit with rust and major pressure loss. Now, copper is generally way more corrosion resistant and can last for decades, but it's not invincible. It still fails through pinhole leaks, freeze damage, or deteriorating joints under certain conditions. And then there's PEX. This modern, flexible plastic resists metal corrosion entirely, which is awesome, but it is definitely not immune to installation mistakes or specific temperature limits. Identifying exactly which category your home falls into is really your first step to assessing your overall risk.
But hey, here is something absolutely vital to remember when you're looking at a potential repipe. Even if you have a strong main line, let's say a relatively healthy copper pipe, the whole system can still fail if the related components, like your shutoff valves, supply lines, water heaters, and fittings, are deteriorating. Repiping isn't just about the long stretches of pipe hiding in the walls. It's about the entire pressure regulation network and all those little connections holding the whole shebang together.
Section 3. The Pre-Repipe Action Plan. Assessing your system.
Okay, so according to the source material, here is exactly what a qualified professional plumber should be doing when they come to evaluate your home. First up, they need to formally assess the actual pipe material itself. That's followed by a really thorough inspection of any accessible plumbing, think basements or crawl spaces. From there, they should be evaluating the actual water pressure and flow right at your fixtures. And finally, they absolutely must review the pattern of any leaks you've had. Pinpointing leaks in older systems is notoriously tough, for sure, but if they keep recurring in different areas, it heavily signals widespread deterioration rather than just some localized one-off fluke.
Think of this as your own personal interrogation guide. When you bring a contractor in, before pulling the trigger on a full repipe, you need to ask them these exact, pointed questions to get all the facts. Are the symptoms consistent across both hot and cold lines, or are they just localized to one area? Do your pressure readings show a systemic restriction, or is it literally just one blocked shower head? Is the root cause actually corrosion, or maybe just a failing water heater? What material do you recommend for my home's specific conditions? And practically speaking, how are you going to handle minimizing damage to my walls? And what about the waistlines and permits? Remember, you are hiring them, so do not be afraid to put them on the spot.
And this brings us to the core thesis of our explainer today, as the source material beautifully summarizes. Ultimately, repiping is less about time since installation and more about condition and risk. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that the chronological age of your pipes doesn't actually matter nearly as much as the current signs of failure. Replacing a failing system is really all about preventing escalating water damage and dramatically reducing your long-term repair costs from having to endlessly patch things up.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty important thought to consider as we wrap up. Are you patching the past, or are you protecting your home's future? If your older plumbing is showing you multiple warning signs, the rust, the recurring leaks, the persistent pressure loss, well, it might be time to stop applying temporary band-aids. Take definitive action, protect your investment, and honestly, just give yourself some peace of mind. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it gave you exactly the tools you need. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.